Good evening from the big town of New York City. It has been a big night here in the Big Apple. Zohran Mamdani is our next mayor-elect. He won, and he won pretty big. The Democrats had a great night just about everywhere. They swept the races in Virginia, in New Jersey. It looks like they're on their way to winning the big ballot measure in California. But what does it mean? Why do we care? What does it mean for Trump? What does it mean for the party? Let's get into it. It is 11:05 here on the East Coast on election night on this Tuesday. We have been in the office covering this election all day and all night for you guys, and I'm here for this little emergency session of our podcast / YouTube show / whatever we're calling it here at the 1600. But I've got my two ace reporters here with me, Dan Gooding and Jesus Mesa. Guys, these two have been with me all night covering this off-year election. And so far, we have seen three of the big races called so far: New Jersey governor, Virginia governor, and New York City mayor. All three of those races going to the Democrats, and not particularly closely. This has been I guess you could call it a sweep. Mamdani has won by, it looks like it's going to be at least 10 points in New York. He has risen above 50%, which suggests that he may even have a mandate here. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey has also defeated Jack Ciattarelli in that gubernatorial race, and Abigail Spanberger easily winning the Virginia governor's race. So, guys, look, there's only so much you can glean from an off-year election like this. However, glean we will. Historically, the president's party takes a hit in these races that happen a year after the presidential election, and that is exactly what happened tonight. Like I said, Democrats have swept the big three races. We're still waiting on results from California, where the polls just closed. Voters there are deciding on this Prop 50 ballot measure. This is the thing that will ratify Gavin Newsom's mid-cycle redistricting that would theoretically give the Democrats probably 5 or so more seats in the midterms next year. That's almost certainly going to pass. So the headlines in the morning are going to be the Democrats had a very good night. Jesus, what's your takeaway? What is the mood of the electorate right now?
Well, and don't forget the Attorney General race, too, in Virginia.
In Virginia, Jay Jones.
Yeah.
Jay Jones won the Attorney General race in Virginia by, it looks like, about 5 points. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, I don't know why you would normally be paying attention to the Virginia AG race unless you live there. This guy was thought to be a lock to win, and then there was this bit. Well, Jesus, why don't you tell us the Jay Jones story?
Well, obviously something that people were looking at was the Jay Jones race, because he was into a big controversy in the past few weeks because, well, they leaked some of his texts actually threatening a Republican candidate back in, I don't know, I remember it was
2022, I think.
2022, and they resurfaced. In a moment in America where the political violence has been a sensitive topic, well, it was a very harmful thing for the Democrats on that race. And people were thinking, okay, does this gonna harm his options to become?
Wait, let's stop for a second, because these texts. These were like he's basically fantasizing in these texts about killing what was then his Republican opponent and their family. I mean, it's disgusting stuff. Frankly, I mean, I think no matter what side of the aisle you're on, he was roundly condemned by Democrats, although not a lot of Democrats actually called for him to drop out. I mean, all the Republicans did, of course, but Spanberger at the top of the ticket, she condemned his text. She did not call for him to leave the race. And indeed, he ended up, it looks like, the race has been called. He's going to win despite having this baggage.
Yeah, and only when they resurfaced, he was being hit in the polls. Like, the polls were telling that this was hurting him badly. But we could argue that if the shutdown had a big effect on that, because obviously Virginia has been very affected about what is happening right now with the shutdown, and maybe this is something that was in the thinking of the voters in Virginia too.
So again, these are states and regions that are blue by nature, right? These are Democrat, we're talking about New York City, we're talking about Virginia, and we're talking about New Jersey. Everyone wants New Jersey to become a swing state. It's not really going to happen, or at least not going to happen, at least in any cycle coming up. Trump overperformed there last time, but he overperformed a lot of places last time. But look at these numbers, right? So Kamala Harris won New Jersey and Virginia each by about 6 points. In both of those races tonight, Spanberger in Virginia and Sherrill in New Jersey, they are outrunning Kamala Harris, right? So they are beating their opponents by about 10 points apiece. That's unbelievable. I mean, you're talking, Dan, about Kamala Harris being outrun by the governors in the governor's race the following year. I mean, she was the presidential nominee.
Yeah, I mean, how often does a local election kind of grab people in this way, I guess? I think what Jesus was saying about the shutdown, affordability, all these kinds of issues that are probably on people's minds. This is the first chance that they get to have a say. Right. Whether they care who's governor or not, it might be that they just want to voice an opinion in some way, and this is a chance for them. But the margins are
the margins are going to tell the story, and we don't. It's not even midnight yet. Right. We don't. These races have not. I mean, they've been called, but there's still votes to be counted. Yeah. So we probably shouldn't extrapolate too much. But it does look like the margins are going to be big. We came into this, this morning when we were talking, on our call this morning, we were saying it's going to be a late night. Democrats could very well win all these races, but I thought personally New Jersey would probably go to Chiarelli, the Republican, or that it was at least going to be a coin toss. And that was not the case at all. So you have a lot. Democrats are they're raring to go, right? I think that's one of the main takeaways from tonight. And I think if you can extrapolate to next year, to the midterms, the Republicans are going to have a big problem on their hands. I mean, putting aside what the Supreme Court does with the Voting Rights Act this term, with the other redistricting battles that are happening around the country, it is always or almost always the case that the opposition party wins big in the midterms. I think that we are looking at that next year, right?
I guess is it not in part also how both sides react in this moment? Because so AOC was at Mamdani's victory party in Brooklyn tonight, and she said, this is one guy, but we all need to come together to kind of make this agenda happen. And I think she's trying to say we need to get our act together. We need to decide what we're rallying around, who we're rallying around to do that.
Right. And I think that she probably wants that person. Well, I don't know what she wants, right? I mean, she's going to she's probably going to primary Chuck Schumer. I mean, first of all, honestly, if there was one loser tonight, aside from the Republicans, it was probably Chuck Schumer. He didn't even, endorse Zohran Mamdani despite being a New Yorker. Mamdani wins big. AOC is probably going to primary Schumer next year. I wouldn't want to be him. Okay, so back to Mamdani. AOC's, she, I think, would like it if somebody like Zohran Mamdani sort of took a role in the national party. They're friends. I mean, they're very close. They have very similar politics. One could make the argument that Republicans actually did get a big win tonight in Zohran Mamdani being elected New York City mayor. I mean, this guy is going to become the face of the Democratic Party as of tomorrow morning. Whether that's a good, bad, or indifferent thing, I don't know. And I do think, Republicans, I think, are licking their chops to make Mamdani the sort of like the cutout for the National Party. He's a democratic socialist. He's got these leftist views. He's the kind of person that Republicans are going to want to run against more than somebody like a Mikey Sherrill or an Abigail Spanberger, who are both more sort of centrist, sort of like creatures of the establishment, if you will, to a degree. That said, I don't know. I mean, Mamdani, put his politics aside for a second. The guy is unbelievably gifted. I think, Dan, you were writing a story tonight about his wife. As I was editing that story, I had forgotten these people were unknown a year ago. The first video that he put out last fall, is literally him standing on a street corner in New York trying to get people to talk to him, and they don't people they're passing him by like he's like a crazy homeless guy, right? And now he's the mayor-elect of the biggest city in New York. That doesn't just happen, right? I mean, that's not a fluke. Like maybe it is a fluke, but it happened because of the ground game that he put on display, as well as the social, just his communications game in general, his social media presence. I mean, he's gifted. He's a gifted politician. I don't know if, I think that if I'm Trump, I don't know if I'm a little scared of him.
Sure. I mean, I think we were kind of talking about the social media stuff earlier, about his presence on the ground. A big issue for Democrats when we were kind of picking apart the 2024 election was that Harris's campaign focused too much on social media, that they were trying to be clever with it, and it didn't work.
This is the authenticity thing.
Yeah, the thing that people have come back to, and I think what we've seen reaction to when we've been covering this is people appreciate that he's out in the clubs, that he's going and meeting the cab drivers at midnight at LaGuardia Airport. You know, he understands that this is a city that is 24 hours, that is made up of all these people trying to make it happen, and he's gone out and done that. It's not been about him. It's
I saw him trick-or-treating on Friday night. He was in my neighborhood. Right. No, I mean, he is one of these guys who is of the belief that you can't be too out there, right? You can't talk to too many people. You can't be on too much media. I mean, this was Kamala Harris. One of her many problems last year is they were they triangulated on who is she going to speak to. Right? I'm going to do Rogan, but I'm only going to do Rogan if he comes to me and I don't come to him. That would Zohran Mamdani would never in a million years. He would talk to Rogan however he could. He would talk to anybody however he could, and that is clearly the way that you win in this sort of like fractured, weird attention economy that we live in now, right?
And I think that something that worked for him is that it was like that he sticked on his message. He was all the time on his message. He was always
affordability.
New York. I remember. I think the first memory that I have of him is actually when he's talking about if he should go to Israel to visit Israel, and they ask all the candidates, what's the first country that you're gonna visit when you are elected mayor? And all of them said Israel, and he was on his message. No, I'm gonna stay in New York because I'm the mayor of New Yorkers. And I think that's something that really stuck with the New Yorkers here, and that message, how he really stuck on what he wanted to say, and it was affordability. And if we go back to last year, I think the word here is affordability, but last year was the egg prices. So I think it's the same problem anyway. Like,
look, this is why I'm always, politics giveth and it taketh away, right? I mean, when you are, it's the economy. We all know that. We all know the famous line from Carville, it's the economy, stupid. Trump ran on affordability, right? And he probably won on affordability and inflation. But look at what's happening now, right? If you take that on as your issue and you don't make a big, dent in it, then you are really vulnerable. And the problem with that is that when you're the president, New York City mayor is one thing. Not even the president has that much that he can actually do. There's not many levers that you can pull on issues that, we're talking about like really complicated fiscal and monetary policies. Yes, the Fed can do certain things. The Fed has levers that it can pull, and it's doing that to try and bring interest rates down. That's not even really working, right? Interest rates are still elevated. I guess what the point that I'm trying to make is you run on affordability, that's all great. What happens when you can't deliver, right? I mean, we're talking about a globalized economy that there's so many inputs here that it's not like there's just a button that a politician can push that just, makes egg prices go down or makes gas prices go down or makes your rent go down. I mean, this is the thing with Mamdani. His big thing has been freezing the rent, which is not something he can even really do. I mean, there's certain ways that I think that he will at least attempt to do it. A lot of his economic policies have to go through Albany, the legislature there. He's not going to get that done. So the question becomes, if we're sitting here a year from now, are New Yorkers saying, hey, yeah, that guy was great. I loved all of his videos and everything, but my rent is still 60% of my paycheck. What the heck, dude? You said that you were going to bring rent down.
And I think that's going to be his biggest challenge because, as you were discussing before, Republicans are going to try to label Mamdani as the next threat to American democracy. He's going to be like the face of the Democratic Party for the next 4 years or 10 years or whatever. But they don't have really solid arguments to attack him right now because he doesn't have even a track record. He doesn't have something that he can be attacked on.
Right.
And I think that's his biggest challenge is how I'm going to deliver because the Republicans and the conservatives are going to be looking at him every day, checking on him every day. Are you delivering? Are you delivering? Because you promised this, you promised this. And I don't really think that the liberals or the Democrats that voted for him are going to be that specific looking for him. I think that the Republicans are going to be the ones who are going to be watching very closely what he's going to do.
Right, and I mean, this will be the big question: is can he turn that? What is his relationship with Trump going to be? Trump, whatever you think about him, like he is a New Yorker at heart. Like he does care about the city. I mean, the fact that he endorsed Andrew Cuomo in the race the other day is, I guess I sort of was shocked in some ways, not shocked in the others, but just, these guys do not like each other. They're not of the same. I mean, they are sort of the same in certain ways, but. Donald Trump endorsing a Democrat, right? Like that just doesn't happen. I mean, you could argue that he was doing that for, I don't know what, to try and juice Mamdani because he wants. I don't actually think any of that's true. I think that he legitimately is worried about the city, his hometown under Mamdani. Dan, one of the things that you and I've talked about, Trump is sort of like the greatest gift to Democrats in terms of turnout, right? When he's around, when he's in the White House, Democrats turn out against him. They always have. That's sort of like one of the rules of thumb, of the Trump era. When he's not on the ballot, Democrats sort of overperform, right? I mean, what did Trump? Did you catch his tweet tonight or his Truth Social post tonight? Where he said,
it's immediately saying, he's saying it's not about me. I'm not on the ballot, but at the end of the day. That's on people's minds. You see people talking about it. Is this something about how he's governing, how he's running things? We've spent the last 11 months going back to the affordability issue of the White House blaming the Biden administration's policies and that they're still trying to figure out this mess. I think there's probably a sense from people taking part in these elections across the country that they're not going to hear that anymore. We're seeing members of his own party, Marjorie Taylor Greene's in New York, going on The View, saying we need affordable
She sounded like a
healthcare.
Democrat or something. I don't know what she's up to.
Do you not think that we're in a very strange situation at this moment where there is a bit of an identity crisis? That's the thing that I think I'm seeing people trying to figure out is what do Republicans want to do and who do Democrats rally around to sort of keep this momentum going?
And I think that's a hidden problem for the Republicans. I think last year when we were covering the election, the biggest question that people were asking was, okay, what's the message of the Democrats? They lost because they don't have a clear message. But now what we are seeing is, okay, the Republicans have a message, but it's Donald Trump's message. So what's the message after Donald Trump? I think that's the key takeaway, or one of the key takeaways that, you can tell on his tweet after tonight.
It's not about, if he's worried and saying that it's not about him, there's a feeling that maybe he's a little scared.
Well, I mean, he tweeted or truthed that Republicans lost because Trump. This is him talking in the third person. Trump wasn't on the ballot, and the shutdown. Right. So put the government shutdown aside, because I think there's plenty of people who could argue, Democrats are taking the heat for it, or Republicans are taking the heat for it. But I think he's right in that when he's not on the ballot, his Democrats tend to overperform, right? What I'm saying is Trump is a force of nature in so many ways, and he brings all of these low propensity Republican voters into the fold when he's running for something. When he isn't, which he will no longer be, they got a real problem on their hands.
And I think that a big example of it is what happened in New Jersey. And we've been talking about how this panic vote turned to Trump in 2024. We don't have the full results yet, but it looks like some of the counties that Trump flipped last year, where they have
Passaic County in Jersey,
for example,
in particular, right?
With a lot of Hispanic population, they went back to Democrats and for a big margin. So, I was reporting to yesterday, I think, a poll about Donald Trump hitting his lowest record on popularity. And it is because, he's not delivering on the promises that he did last year. And and we go back, affordability, grocery prices, the economy. And those things are hitting, for example, the Latinos and the Hispanics. And that was the reason why they went to Trump.
They wanted to give him a shot. They were saying, look, put aside January 6th and all of the crap from the first term. We're willing to give Trump a shot because Biden screwed up so badly on inflation and affordability. And now are we saying, is it buyer's remorse, or are they just saying, you know what, I'm not coming out anymore? At least
one of the areas, the promises that he has delivered on is immigration. He's delivering on that policy, and I think for perhaps some of the Hispanic communities who did vote for him, did want to sort of increase border security, are seeing that come home to roost. And, saw a guy give an interview, I think in Jersey yesterday, saying, I supported him. I believe in his policies, but family is the most important thing to me. And he's seeing families around him.
Right. Get separated. This is the thing that I never understand about these sorts of people, though, because, again, love him or hate him, Trump's pretty much always does what he says he's gonna do. Like, his immigration policy is, he ran on it and he won on it, right? I mean, you could quibble with they were saying that they were gonna go after criminals and now they're saying like, well, you're a criminal by virtue of being in the country illegally. But it's like, you guys, I mean, you voted for these ICE raids, right? These didn't come out of nowhere. He said he was going to do it.
We had, 2017 through 2021,
right,
where similar policies were enacted. It's not like nobody had a clue how this was going to play out. And, when you come back to New York and they're saying, we're going to kind of go all in now because Mamdani has won, and so we're going to send ICE in. I don't think that's unlikely. I think they will. I think they will absolutely do that because they're going to deliver on the promises that they've made.
Well, this is one of the things that I'm going to be really, just as a New Yorker, that I'm going to be watching here is, I mean, Trump is going to make this guy Mamdani's life a living hell, or at least he's going to try, right? I mean, Trump is punitive by nature. These guys could not be more different politically. Mamdani is going to tweak Trump. Trump is going to come back with, the wrath of God on him. It will be very interesting to see how Mamdani can sort of, thread that needle.
But how do you think the wider Democrat Party has to react to that? How do they respond? Do they rally around him, or do they quickly distance themselves from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll rally. Every Democrat in America is going to want a piece of Mamdani now, right? Because I mean, he is now, he's the guy. He's got the juice, and nobody else in that party does.
The only ones who doesn't want them are actually the ones in charge. That's crazy. But every voter wants something like Mamdani in their counties, in their states, in their cities. I
think the question for the Democrats is there enough room in the party for, a Zohran Mamdani in New York and an Abigail Spanberger in Virginia? I mean, again, Spanberger, she's a former CIA operative. She's like she's a moderate. She calls herself a national security mom. And her and Mikey Sherrill, also a national security mom, they were actually roommates, I believe, when they were served in Congress together. I think looking at those two women and comparing them to Mamdani, both in terms of, public opinion, but also how they operate in the next year or so, will be very interesting in terms of showing us like what happens to the Democrats going forward.
You didn't mention that. For example, I think the Jay Jones example is very, very, very interesting because, as you said, those were horrific texts, horrific chats, and still the Democrats went and voted for them. And I don't know if that happened 4 years ago when, these identity politics were very, very trendy.
It's just everyone's so polarized. I mean, I hear it because I wrote in the newsletter a while back about the Jay Jones thing, just being like, this should be disqualifying. Like, can we at least just as a country get to a place where we don't – first of all, he's running for attorney general, right? I mean, can you imagine being indicted by an attorney general who has texts on the record talking about how great it would be if his opponent took a bullet to the head and their kids died? Like, that should be disqualifying. And a lot of people wrote in and they said, respectfully, we're past that. Trump is the one, and Trump is the reason, right? When you cannot, if Trump's going to say whatever he wants, and if the political dialogue is going to be so degraded as it has been over the Trump era, then yeah, you know what? That's fine, because Trump never apologizes. So why should I apologize for when my guy does the same thing, right?
You only have to look at California and Gavin Newsom
Right.
trying to sort of basically mimic Trump's posts in clapping back at him each and every day now.
Right.
They've just
And
thrown the rule book out the window because it hasn't worked for them, and so they're trying to figure out a new way forward.
And to the extent there is a leader of the Democratic Party right now, other than Mamdani, maybe, it is Newsom. I mean, he is in pole position. It's still early, but he's in pole position to be the Democratic nominee, for better or worse. I would argue worse.
I think that's the struggle that I'm seeing a lot of commentators, a lot of strategists talk about is, who do we pick? Like you say, do we pick someone who's more moderate,
Right,
who can speak sense into this but stands up to Trump? Do we pick someone who is more on the left? Bernie Sanders is still around after all these years. He still appeals
and
to
very
voters.
popular.
Yeah.
As is AOC,
Yeah.
right? These are popular people.
And so I think that's the challenge that people are talking about is where do we position ourselves?
Right. That is the big question. Okay, it's coming up on midnight, and I am exhausted. I've been in this office for 14 hours now, so I think let's go home. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank you guys for watching. We will have a 1600 newsletter in the morning where we will have this video linked for you. And thanks for tuning in on this late election night. Good night from New York.